The WWE's annual SummerSlam pay-per-view event has now ended, and after what was certainly an intriguing and interesting show, there is lots to talk about the biggest party of the summer this year. Before we get into our main story for the video, we will provide you guys with a recap of SummerSlam 2020 for those who may have missed out on the event, and by all means, there were many matches on the card worth discussing. The action at SummerSlam 2020 kicked off on the pre-show with Apollo Crews defending his United States Championship against challenger MVP. And while this was the only match featured on the kickoff show, it certainly wasn't very long by any stretch, as Apollo Crews managed to retain his United States title fairly quickly against MVP in a rather forgettable match, with Apollo also managing to escape the Hurt Business shortly afterwards. The SummerSlam 2020 main card kicked off with a SmackDown Women's Championship match between champion Bayley and challenger Asuka, and as most of you were well aware, this was one of Asuka's 2 title matches at SummerSlam this year, and as we had reported in our last video, Asuka's first opportunity at a main roster Women's Championship certainly didn't go as planned for the Empress of Tomorrow, as Bayley managed to retain her SmackDown Women's title against Asuka with the help of her best friend Sasha Banks, and by all means, it was a pretty solid little match. We then had the scheduled Raw Tag Team Championship match with the Street Profits defending their Raw Tag Team titles against Andrade and Angel Garza, and by all means, despite not being one of the most anticipated matches on the card, most fans expected this one to be a fairly decent technical bout to get fans hyped up for the rest of the SummerSlam 2020 card. The WWE ended up deciding to keep the Raw Tag Team titles on the Street Profits, with Zelina Vega's attempts to distract the referee backfiring, as Andrade was too caught up trying to help Zelina, who had been pushed off the ring apron by accident, and he wasn't there to tag in from Angel Garza, resulting in the Street Profits retaining their gold. Some fans believe this match could have been a bit better, but one interesting future storyline to come out of this match is definitely regarding Angel Garza and Andrade breaking up after their failed attempt tonight at the Raw Tag Team titles. The Raw Tag Team Championship match was followed by the Loser Leaves WWE match between former best friends Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, and while some fans were excited for the original hair versus hair match, the stakes were definitely higher with the new stipulation being the Loser Leaves WWE. Like most fans had predicted, Mandy Rose eventually picked up the win over Sonya Deville after a back and forth hard-fought match, and Sonya Deville now has to leave the WWE. As most of you are likely aware, Sonya isn't actually going to be leaving the WWE, but she will be taking some time off to deal with some of the issues going on in her life outside the company, hence why Vince decided for the match stipulation to be changed to a Loser Leaves WWE match, after Sonya had requested some time off. Up next, we had one of the most highly anticipated matches on the SummerSlam 2020 card, with that match being the street fight between Seth Rollins and the debuting aspiring superstar Dominik Mysterio, who is accompanied to the ring by his father Rey Mysterio. Despite only beginning his career in the WWE, most fans had very high expectations and were very excited for Dominik's debut match against Seth Rollins. While some fans believed the WWE would book Dominik Mysterio to pull off the win over Seth Rollins tonight at SummerSlam, after weeks of Rollins absolutely berating the entire Mysterio family, the WWE put the feel-good moment of Rollins taking a loss on hold, with Seth Rollins managing to pick up the win over Dominik Mysterio in convincing fashion after what was a truly grueling street fight. According to one of our sources, this will lead to Dominik and Rey Mysterio tag teaming against Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy at the upcoming Payback pay-per-view event next weekend. Regardless, despite losing tonight, Dominik did great in his first official WWE match. We then had Asuka's second chance to claim one of the WWE's main roster women's championships, with Sasha Banks defending her Raw Women's title against the Empress of Tomorrow. And after what was a truly great showing between Asuka and Sasha Banks, Asuka managed to recapture her Raw Women's Championship from Banks, with the bigger storyline here definitely being regarding the relationship between Sasha Banks and Bayley crumbling, something that fans will likely see reach its boiling point at the upcoming Payback pay-per-view event, when Banks and Bayley will have to defend their women's tag team titles. And with the tension growing between Banks and Bayley after Sasha's title loss tonight, it looks like their alliance will be ending real soon. Up next, we had the highly anticipated WWE Championship match between defending champion Drew McIntyre and challenger Randy Orton, and by all accounts, most fans expected this to potentially be the match of the night. As many had predicted, the WWE title match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre delivered, as both men put in a fantastic effort to make their bout something special. And at the end of the day, SummerSlam 2020 lived up to its hyped motto, "You'll never see it coming," as Drew surprised Randy at the end of their match by using a backslide roll-up pin to get the win, with Drew McIntyre managing to retain his WWE Championship. And finally, we have the match that surrounds the main story of this video, that being the Universal Championship match between Braun Strowman and The Fiend Bray Wyatt. Heading into this title match, there's no doubt that most fans were under the belief that Braun Strowman would be losing the Universal title to The Fiend at SummerSlam, likely due to an interference from Alexa Bliss on behalf of The Fiend, but Alexa stayed away from the match, and The Fiend managed to win the Universal Championship from Braun Strowman clean, after Strowman seemingly did everything he could to defeat The Fiend, but simply couldn't get the job done. The Fiend then hit two Sister Abigail finishers on Braun Strowman over the exposed ring, and put Strowman away for the 3 count, with The Fiend Bray Wyatt winning his second Universal title in his career. It's unknown how The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss romance angle will play out moving forward, considering she didn't appear in this match, but we have been told that Bliss may actually be removed from the storyline now that the WWE are moving in a completely new direction due to the shocking moment that fans witnessed tonight at SummerSlam 2020. The real shocking scenario to play out at SummerSlam 2020 was definitely the return of the big dog Roman Reigns after The Fiend's title win, with Roman Reigns returning looking absolutely monstrous and extremely muscular, and taking out The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, letting fans along with Strowman and The Fiend know that the big dog is back to claim his yard over on Friday Night SmackDown. However, the real talking point is regarding it seeming as though Roman Reigns has finally begun his heel turn, as Reigns not only destroyed The Fiend Bray Wyatt, but Braun Strowman as well, not to mention the fact that Roman Reigns was wearing a t-shirt that said, "Wreck everyone and leave," indicating that Roman Reigns isn't going to be letting any superstars off the hook moving forward, whether they are babyface or heel. While the WWE could simply move in the direction of Roman Reigns becoming a tweener like he was in the past, according to one of our sources, Vince McMahon is in fact moving ahead with the decision of turning Roman Reigns heel following his shocking return at SummerSlam tonight, with Vince reportedly wanting Roman Reigns to be a full-time version of Brock Lesnar, with Reigns clearly taking this new role very seriously by putting on tons of new muscle and overall just looking like a complete beast. We have been told that the main reason for not only Roman Reigns returning tonight, but the fact that Reigns is coming back as a heel is because Vince believes a heel Roman Reigns will draw big ratings for Friday Night SmackDown, something the WWE are desperately in need of, and believes it will also reinvigorate Roman Reigns' character, and finally click with fans and get over to the degree McMahon thinks Reigns should. With all of this being said, make sure you guys let us know your overall thoughts of SummerSlam 2020, and more specifically, what did you think about The Fiend winning the Universal title and Roman Reigns returning as a monstrous heel to set his sights on The Fiend's newly won championship?